Hello.
Hello, my name is Hywel Roberts.
And my name's Debra Kidd.
And we're absolutely buzzing to be presenting to you today at this brilliant festival celebrating the arts. And what we've only got a short session, so we're going to run through it pretty quickly, if that's all right. And we're focusing on the idea of the arts, particularly drama, storytelling, as a way of celebrating and bringing the school curriculum to life. And we've got some thoughts around that, and we want to use this time to share it with you. Does that sum it up, Deborah?
It does sum it up. Hywel and I have been working together now for, well, longer than I care to remember.
It's a long time.
Since the noughties, haven't we? Since those noughties.
Yes.
And we were initially both heads of department. We were English and drama teachers, kind of veered more towards the drama, and then both ended up working more in primary than in secondary. But throughout that, drama has been the beating heart of our practice and our work. In fact, we first met at a drama workshop with Dorothy Heathcote.
We did, yeah.
Where she cast us both as Jack and Jill, and we've been rolling down hills ever since. I think not always in the best state of mind.
We have.
Anyway, on that note, I'm going to share screen. And we just want to share with you a few ideas of how we, over time, have turned some of those early experiences as teachers into perhaps more of a theory of learning that places stories at the beating heart of the practice that we do. Do you want to talk about the picture on this?
Oh,
slide?
I will. I'll mention the picture. It's that's the book that Deborah and I wrote during a fallow period of work. 1 January, we decided, we'd been asked a lot actually, where do you get your ideas from? How do we turn these, whimsical ideas sometimes into solid curriculum? So what we did was we sought to answer that question, and we got our idea. We got 10 places, including a graveyard, a ship, a castle, a theme park, and we turned them, if you like, not into schemes of work, but into prompts, research-informed prompts that would hopefully support the teacher in the development of their own professional imagination and practical wisdom.
And it really was coming from the question from teachers of where do you get your ideas from? Our ideas always start with, where's the story? Where's the possibility for story in this? Stories can sit at the heart of all kinds of areas of learning. Hywel and I have been planning this morning stories around sweet shops and stories around monarchies and stories around processing COVID in terms of what will historians of the future have to say about this time that we've been in, but all sitting around this notion of stories, because stories are psychologically privileged in the human mind. There's a growing body of evidence from cognitive science to suggest this, that we are drawn to these aspects of story, and particularly when they are put together in a structure such as this. Willingham borrows quite heavily from E.M. Forster when he's outlining this, in fact, without citation, which is a bit cheeky, but what he talks about is the idea that stories always have people in them, the characters, that those characters then face situations in which there are complications, where they have to take into account other people's perspectives. There are shifts in plots and directions and pivots, where one thing leads to another, which is quite important for the pattern making part of our brain, the idea that there are causes and consequences and eventualities. And then sitting at the heart of these stories and driving the interest in those stories is tension. And the idea that Forster and Willingham talk about conflict, but actually I think that's just to make a nice alliterative effect. What we're really talking about here is the importance of tension sitting at the heart of those stories, so that children can't always sit back and think that things are sorted. Those are always the unexpected, perhaps, about to happen. And what drama does is to elevate that idea of a story and allow us to access different cognitive tools, different tools of understanding. Bruner might call them iconic, symbolic, and enacted tools. Here, Kieran Egan talks about the idea of the somatic, where we can put children into a physical exploration of the story, where they're using their bodies to interpret events and emotions. We've got the mythic aspects of stories, which center around language and communication. We have that idea of being able to transcend and escape situations through the story, moving children into that romantic realm, which frankly right now I think they really need. And then the opportunity for using stories as portals into wider philosophical questions. And that means extending into themes and ideas and ethical dilemmas and questions, as well as just reading the subtext or inference of a text. So stories open these opportunities for a much more multifaceted idea of learning. And we are hearing lots of conversations around curriculum at the moment in which stories are being explored pedagogically. Christine Counsell talks about the rich hinterland of a story, the thing that enhances the background knowledge, that almost illuminates some of the more direct manifestations of knowledge that the teacher might be shaping the work with the children in. I'd say we can go a step further, that even within that hinterland, there's evidence to suggest that it impacts on performance. And very, very briefly, because we haven't got time to really go into this, this is again from an article by Daniel Willingham, but which is reviewing this original research. But what we can see in this blue and red bar chart is the extra gains made by a group that had explored the theory of radiation and the theory of planetary movements through the stories, through the eyes, the characters of Marie Curie and Galileo. No idea why they've sparked Galileo like that. I don't know if it's a typo, but it's from the original study. What's particularly interesting about this is that the red chart shows the test that happened sometime later. So initially, when the test was done immediately after the lesson, the story group outperformed the other group, but those gains increased over time, which suggests that stories have a long-term impact on memory. We don't quite know why Galileo was so much more engaging than Marie Curie, but we think perhaps it's the tension of his discovery in terms of the church and the orthodoxy of the time, but we don't know for sure. So if we are moving that forward and we think about, well, how much more enhanced can the learning be if it's wrapped within these very exploratory drama for learning, we would call it, not theatre techniques. I think we're talking about a come hither land, a land where we pull children into the learning and effectively engage them in these four realms of activity: the affective, the heart, the cognitive, the head, the thinking processes, the knowledge. The embodied is the hand, the action, things that we do. And then the social, the harmony, is the collaborative practice and the social construction of meaning together as a community of learners. So how is that done? How do we actually create this journey from hinterland to hitherland in a story? I'm going to let Hywel share an example.
So in front of you there, hopefully you can see a building, but I'm going to talk to you a little bit about this building, and I'm going to invite you to just consider the things I say and maybe respond to it in your own minds, or if you're sitting with someone, have a chat with them about it. Here is a photograph. Now, my broad teacher question, teacher to teacher, is where is the curriculum present in this picture? Where can we see curriculum? Where do we notice the opportunities and possibilities in this image? Now, that's a resource. That's us considering a resource. But now let's step into, if you like, the dramatic, or step into the narrative, the story. And let's ask ourselves this: where is this? When is it? What's happened? When this place was cared for, what was its purpose? Has this place ever been loved? if you smashed one of the windows on the flyover staircase, why did you do it? Who were the people who worked here? This is, let's say, an old abandoned factory. Now, I took some kids with this. There's two ideas here, but because of time, we haven't got time to go into it all. But the children are set up as people who are going to go into the old abandoned factory and explore it. But to go in and do that, they have to be ready, and they have to, if you like, take the responsibility of fulfilling the brief, which is to go into the old factory and see if there is anything worth saving before the place is going to be demolished. Now, the kids write lists. A primary cohort, they're writing lists. What do we need to take with us? They're saying sandwiches, they're saying drinks, they say ladders, because we learn that there is no electricity inside and we can't trust the staircases. So we're taking in torches, we're taking in mobile phones and so on. With a class of older kids, I can do exactly the same thing. Might be a bit more, the responses might be a bit more complex, but we're doing the same thing. And when we get inside, using drama approaches, we get inside this old factory and we look around and we paint the scene of what we find. And on post-it notes, we if you like, populate the walls of the classroom with the things we find. We find things like a pencil on a string hanging from a nail. We find a coat stand with a coat still on it from many years before. We find an old desk with a leather top. We find the portrait of a boy slowly decaying and hanging off the wall. And the kids then have to decide, are we taking these things with us? Have these things got value? Now, I'm not telling them if they've got value or not. We're just thinking about it. And the kids are having to take that responsibility on for themselves. With a secondary school class, a high school class, we followed that process and we found a wooden panel. The suggestion was, there wasn't really a wooden panel there. It was a sheet of paper with those letters written on it. And I said, look, let's say we've found this wooden panel with these letters carved into it. What could this mean? And some of the kids are just reading it out, going, her Oscar, she, it's like some weird language. And there's a girl in the class who just says, those are the names of children. And this girl's firing it up because she's right. Because it was just a simple teacher trick, wasn't it? And we filled in the names. And this, if you like, was a dramatic introduction to looking at the Industrial Revolution, Key Stage 3 history, Industrial Revolution, the role of children. But this was more than that, because even though the kids studied this and we went into all this and we created stories about the children who we would find in old photographs, we could then actually bring it bang up to date and look at the role of children and work in the modern world. And so suddenly the curriculum it started in a kind of serious but playful place where we're packing up to go inside an old abandoned factory, and it's finishing in a place of stark reality and, if you like, global empathy and global learning.
Yeah, and the global development goals that children are exploring at the moment. We find this quite helpful. We know this is a very short presentation, but we just thought that this might be quite helpful for you to think about. When Hywel's planning that factory setting, when both of us are planning any work, really, we tend to get people saying, oh, we're doing the Romans, we're doing ancient Greeks, or, in science, we've got to study these AQA, Key Stage 3 principles. And we are always like, well, where's the story? Who needs to know this stuff in the world? So this is a useful model for us. Who are the people? Whose voices are we going to hear? What belief systems are we going to be introduced to? Where is it happening and when is it happening? And they can offer constraints as well, can't they, Hywel? You know, like if it's happening in winter or if it's happening in the past, these are going to pull in different curriculum constraints. What's the problem these people are facing in this place? What concerns and dilemmas do we have? And we need to keep that bubbling up throughout. You don't just start with a problem and solve it. There are twists and turns along the way. And then what possibilities for plaiting in the curriculum, weaving in the curriculum exist that this story can kick off for us and start off for us. And that means we're not working with an umbrella model of topics and cross-curricular work. We're working more within the realm of, if we encounter this in the real world, what do we need to know? And that might be something from the realm of geography or the realm of science or the realm of history. We can pull those things together. So hope that's been useful.
Yeah, that has been a really quick whistle stop, but hopefully there's enough there to get you thinking and maybe even taking an interest in some of our work, which Debra's book, The Curriculum of Hope, which is an absolutely wonderful book, the Uncharted Territories book, and my Oops book as well. There are emails. We're easy to find, to be honest. We're on the Twitters and the face cloths and the emails if you want to get in touch.
So have a great day. Enjoy the rest of the conference. We're really happy to be here sharing that with you. And we'll just leave you with that awkward moment where people start trying to switch off their computers.
Thank you. Have a great day. Bye.